There is a kind of distance that doesn't come from conflict. It doesn't arrive with anger, shouting, or slammed doors. It arrives quietly. One day, you notice you reply slower. You share less. You choose solitude over conversation. Not because you hate people. Not because you think you're better than anyone else. But because something inside you has grown tired. This video is about that tiredness. The quiet reason you distance yourself from everyone. Plus, most people assume distance means rejection. That if someone steps back, they must be cold, withdrawn, or uninterested. But the truth is often more subtle. Sometimes, distance is not about others at all. It's about self-preservation. It's about choosing a smaller emotional radius. Because the larger one became overwhelming. You didn't wake up one day and decide to disappear. You slowly learned that being available all the time was costing you more than you realized. Plus, there was a time when you showed up fully. You listened deeply. You cared intensely. You tried to understand everyone. But over time, you noticed something. You were always the one adjusting. The one explaining. The one holding space. And slowly, that role began to feel heavy. Not because you didn't care, but because care was no longer being met with care. Distance began as rest. Plus, emotional fatigue doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks calm, neutral, quiet. You still function. You still smile when needed. You still respond politely. But inside, something has shifted. You no longer feel drawn to engage deeply. You conserve energy. You choose silence. Not because you've stopped feeling, but because you've felt too much for too long. Plus, one of the first signs of quiet distance is the loss of desire to explain yourself. You realize that explaining doesn't always lead to understanding. That some people hear words, but miss intention. After enough moments of being misunderstood, you stop trying to clarify. Not out of bitterness, but out of acceptance. Acceptance that not everyone is willing or able to meet you where you are. Plus, you didn't plan to distance yourself. It happened naturally. As your nervous system learned what felt safe. You noticed which conversations left you drained. Which relationships required too much emotional labor. And without consciously deciding, you stepped back. This kind of distance isn't strategic. It's instinctive. Plus, sometimes, the quiet reason you distance yourself is that closeness requires you to shrink, to soften your truth, to manage other people's reactions, to minimize your needs. And after a while, that shrinking becomes exhausting. Distance allows you to breathe again. It gives you room to exist without constantly editing yourself. Plus, this is important to understand. You don't distance yourself because you lack empathy. You distance yourself because you have too much of it. You feel deeply. You absorb moods. You notice subtleties. And in environments that don't respect that sensitivity, distance becomes protection. Plus, silence is often misunderstood. People think silence means avoidance or punishment or indifference. But sometimes, silence is simply where you feel safe. It's where you no longer have to perform emotional availability. Where you can exist without expectation. That silence is not empty. It's restorative. Plus, this content is for educational and reflective purposes only. It is based on real-life experiences and personal growth journeys. Shared to invite awareness, not conclusions. We encourage kind, respectful discussion and constructive comments. Plus, at some point, you started listening inward. You noticed how certain interactions left you tense. How certain dynamics required you to abandon your own rhythm. Distance wasn't rejection. It was alignment. Alignment with your emotional capacity. Plus, true connection feels mutual. It doesn't require constant effort. It doesn't feel like work. When connection becomes something you endure, instead of enjoy. Your system begins to pull away. Not to punish anyone, but to restore balance. Plus, people may say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're harder to reach. What they don't see is the inner recalibration happening. You're not colder. You're clearer. Clear about what drains you. Clear about what nourishes you. Plus, this is something many people struggle to accept. You are not meant to be close to everyone. Depth requires selectivity. Distance doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to protect what's fragile inside you. Plus, have you noticed that being alone sometimes feels easier than being understood? That solitude feels restful, while social interaction feels heavy. This isn't antisocial behavior. It's emotional honesty. Your system is telling you something important. Plus, distance doesn't have to be permanent. It's often a phase of recalibration. A time to reconnect with yourself. To remember your own rhythm. To restore your boundaries. From that place, connection can return, but differently, more intentional, more aligned, more gentle. Plus, needing space is not a flaw. It's a response to overload, to misalignment, to emotional saturation. You don't owe anyone constant access to your inner world. Distance is sometimes the healthiest choice you can make. Plus, if you've been distancing yourself lately, there may be nothing wrong with you. You may simply be listening to a quieter wisdom inside. The kind that values safety over noise, presence over performance, depth over quantity. You don't need to decide anything tonight. You don't need to reconnect or retreat further. You can simply notice. And in this space, distance is not judged. It's understood.